never been done before.
The forgotten men and women of our country will be forgotten no longer. Might as well jump. 2024 is our final battle. They stole our jobs and they plundered our wealth. The future does not belong to globalists. The future belongs to patriots.
The activation word, Ronald McDonald.
We will drive out the globalists.
All patriots go.
We will cast out the communists. America will start winning again. Winning like never before. We will bring back our jobs. We will bring back our borders. And we will bring back our dreams.
Oh my goodness! Wow. Yeah! What an intro! What an intro to Meme Ranch tonight. We have so many crazy things to talk about. I'm still like in shock and awe. I was telling people earlier, this feels like the Queen's death, with all this talk about Biden's polls in free fall at the moment after that debate, and we're kind of here just to sort of recap everything that's sort of happened since the debate that happened. That seems like now that was almost intended to be the crap show that it was, because it seems like the Democratic oligarchy is trying to pull the crook on Biden off the stage. And we're kind of just
for the CNN reaction to be like jet fuel doesn't melt still kind of thing. It was like so bad.
It was so like on cue, like on script, that like, you know, it immediately it was like everyone was getting, you know, the feedback in their ear, you know, to like, you know, execute Order 66 on Biden. It seems like. And I don't know, like I started getting texts from people over the weekend about, you know, whether Biden was going to bow out, and I was bearish at the time, you know, wasn't really thinking it was going to actually happen. And, you know, still to this night, to July 2nd, people are still, you know, saying it's not going to happen. The war chest transfer is going to be too difficult. Getting it to Kamala Harris is going to be bad because people aren't going to go along with her. But
let's play that little clip of Biden's latest speech that Trump posted, so we can.
Right. Yeah, this is
what we're talking.
This is basically how the latest. This is how they're operating
cheap
now. This is the evolution of the cheap fakes.
Good evening.
Yeah, that's what I want to see. Yeah, come on.
Debate.
Do it again.
That's on Trump's account, I think. Trump's team account.
Oh god, it's replaying in my ear right now. Yeah. So basically, you know, where are we at right now? If you can kind of give me your sort of layman's perspective, because I was texting you earlier in the day, and I felt like I was texting other people too, and you know, everyone's initial reaction after the debate was, yeah, he's going to bow out. But I think that conservatives, Republicans started to kind of like temper those thoughts after the hours, you know, went by, and they were like, yeah, they're going to keep him in because it's going to be too chaotic if they take him out. But it just seems like, what else can they do now except replace him? You know, what are your thoughts, Xvala?
It sure seems like that's the current. That's the current. He's gone. I mean, he is gone. I just don't know if he's out of the race. So I was kind of more interested in dissecting the reaction. You know, I guess you'd call it copium from the legal standpoint that I'm seeing online, like the video we were talking about.
Oh, you mean? Do you also mean Harry losing Harry Sisson?
Wait a second. You're kidding, right? Harry Sisson's the Biden performance was so bad. Harry's out.
Yeah, man. Harry, look at him. Like he's saying, quote, friends, you all know how hard I've been behind President Biden. I've taken blows for him both online and in person. He's touched me in ways no other politician has in my lifetime. But the time has come. Joe has to pull out. No, this is another cheap fake by us. We keep you know, throwing these in your all's face, but no, this is another fake. But I mean,
I challenge Harry to make this a real tweet, a real X.
You know, at this point, you know, he's denying it. He's calling out this. He's saying this is a fake post, you know, and still championing Trump or Biden 2024. But you know, whenever, you know, they get the memo, like the email, the morning email that we talk about all the time, he's gonna flip on a dime too, and people are gonna be wondering, like, Harry, you were so gung ho, you know, you were saying no to all the naysayers, and now you're just falling in lockstep. Like, what gives, Harry? Like, you were Biden's last stand, you know. You were on the front lines for him, and where did you go? But for now, it seems like he's sticking around. You know, he's given it his best shot for Biden, and this all comes at the same time, you know, where we're looking at, there was a Reuters report tonight. I want to flash on the screen too real quick, that basically, we saw some Democrats today, just a couple sitting current members in the House, you know, moderate Democrats say that they wanted Biden to step down, but now Reuters is reporting, if I can get this kind of zoomed in on the screen here, there are 25 Democratic House members of the preparing to call for Biden to step aside if he seems shaky in the coming days. So it's sort of a
that means,
you know,
if the memo's out, the money is disappearing for the Trump campaign. I mean, the Biden campaign, and it's time. The push is on.
Yeah, I mean, what's the over under on the memes here? Are we bullish on Kamala, on K-Hive memes coming around? What do we all owe our apologies to Mrs. Harris?
No, she's good.
She's good. she's got the support of the Charlie XCX community.
Hey,
I do too. Yeah, but I mean, I think we'll probably you know, see a bunch of, you know, I don't know what it is, but I just, you know, there's something about Dems over like 2021 to 2023 who were just like, they enjoyed clowning on the VP, like, you know, it was no one's business, and, you know, they almost clowned on her as much as I think conservatives did, and now they're all about to jump on board the K-Hive, I guess, and it's going to be interesting to see that pivot too, as well. I mean, who knows? Maybe we're all going to be laughing. Maybe, you know, a week from now, the comments are going to be like, "Yeah, you guys have egg on your face." You know, Biden's still here. But I think that Biden's mindset right now is like, what would I do if I only had 1 week left to be president? I think he's you know, you know what I would do though, if I had 1 week left.
What would you do?
Invade Canada. You know, like, one week left to be president. What do you do? You know, YOLO. Just kind of yeet it out. You know,
as President Biden, that would be your last act.
Okay, if I was President Biden, that, you know, that changes things. You know, but I mean, I think that, you know, he could send confetti to Gaza. You know?
You're way off. Let's play that video.
Okay, you're talking about
with this. So I want to see this video.
The Midas one. Yeah.
Let's react to that video.
All right, let's bring it in.
I apologize everybody for Cameron. I don't know where he's going with this stuff.
Dude, I forgot to take my Adderall.
Been writing a lot of stories on heavy subjects.
This is actually my true focus is the legal stuff. But now it's like, now that all the excitement is like, you know, pivoting to like the Biden campaign, I've just been like, man, I chose the wrong focus, like, because this is so much more entertaining. But yeah, let's see what Midas is saying about this.
Ruling granting Donald Trump's request for absolute presidential immunity, Trump wasted no time and filed in the Manhattan court where he was convicted on 34 felony counts.
We are talking about what happened today. I feel like I should preface this.
I want you to jump in here as much as possible also.
Yeah, so basically we're seeing now that the Trump sentencing is delayed till September. And then it's all based off of the Supreme Court sweeping immunity ruling, which I don't have to dig into because you guys have probably seen all of the different reactions of it. My take on it is I think that, despite all of the, crazy hypotheticals that are swirling around there, I think that it's a bit of a, it's a bit of a hindrance on the executive, because I think that what it's basically, it's like whenever there's there's like a corporate accident and like somebody does something like unthinkable, and then they have to put up like a sign in the office that says like, there's no, putting beans into the coffee filter or something like that, and it's like, why would this rule need to be made? Like what happened to cause this, to cause this rule to get made? And I think that basically we're seeing, this giant rule that's going to be like on the presidential placard in the Oval Office. And, it's basically going to be a shadow over presidents to think, like, what can I do with this position that I could be potentially held liable for? Before, there was kind of like a shroud of ignorance. I think that honestly, the idea of absolute immunity was sort of baked into the role of the presidency before, but now, all presidents are going to want to study up on the Supreme Court ruling to make sure that they don't do anything that's.
I actually have a good metaphor for this, because this is sort of a meme that President Trump himself created when he said, "I could be on the streets in New York. I'm so popular as president. I could be on the streets in New York, shoot somebody, kill them, and not be charged." Right?
Mm-hmm.
You remember that meme? So
right.
Now this ruling says, well, yes, maybe if it's an official act, but if it's not, if it's a personal act, then you can be criminally charged. But that would still be after a impeachment.
Right. Yeah. Impeachment is the name of the game. I mean, honestly, like if Biden tomorrow drone struck, Mar-a-Lago, then, call me crazy, call me insane, but I think that most Democrats even would be like, okay, that's an impeachable offense. Let's impeach him, and then let's take it to a criminal trial after that.
And the reaction on the left has been that now the president's a king, which is ridiculous, because you can still break the law. You can bend the law enough to be a criminal. Biden sent the FBI to Trump's house like a
good point,
and that's not illegal,
right?
And then this ruling doesn't even change that. So I just feel like it's a lot of hot air.
Yeah, totally. But let's see what Midas is saying about it, because I'm sure their spin is like some crazy, doomsday, idea.
A request to basically vacate the verdict based on the absolute immunity decision. I'll explain to you why he's making that request in just a moment. I think there's a lot of confusion out there from a lot of our viewers saying, how could he even make that request? The absolute presidential immunity ruling by the United States Supreme Court deals solely with official acts while somebody is in the office of the presidency. So what are we even talking about here? The hush money payments and the falsification of business records. Didn't all of that take place before Donald Trump was ever in office? How is this even an issue? I'll address that in a moment. Let me just show you first what the Manhattan District Attorney just responded moments ago. This was after Donald Trump's lawyers yesterday requested filed a motion and requested a hearing to basically set aside the verdict against him. And the district attorney's office responded, and they said, look, we are in receipt of defendant Donald Trump's pre-motion letter dated July 1st, seeking leave to file a motion to set aside the verdict pursuant to the local New York rules based upon the Supreme Court's July 1, 2024 decision in Trump versus the United States. In that letter, defendant requested until July 10th, 2024 to submit a memorandum of law in support of such motion. While defendant's letter states that he does not object to an adjournment of the July 11, 2024 sentencing date, his request to file moving papers on July 10th is necessarily a request to adjourn sentencing hearing, currently scheduled for July 11, 2024, pending resolution of the motion. Although we believe defendants' arguments regarding immunity is without merit, we do not oppose his request for leave to file his putative request to adjourn sentencing, pending determination of.
Can I fill in the gaps too now? Like what's happened since then? Yeah. So Judge Merchan since then has said, okay, I'm responding to this and saying that basically I am, postponing this, this sentencing until September. And basically there's like a September 6th date to sort of, get, everything, ready and in gear with all the motions from both sides. And then September 18th, I believe, is the day now that the sentencing is going to take place. So this filing came in just hours before Merchan has ordered now to postpone the sentencing. And basically what we're seeing is these top three arguments from Trump that basically there's certain witness testimony, like Michael Cohen and other people who testified during the trial that we're talking about. Even though the charges pertain to things that happened before Trump was president, obviously some of the evidence that was spoken about at the trial happened while Trump was president. So that's one area that Trump's team says we think that some of this testimony should be thrown out. The other component is quotes from Trump and social media posts from Trump that were posted around the time that he was president, and saying, those, are official, acts. Essentially, Trump is speaking in his capacity as president, and we think that's also immune. And then there's another thing, I think it's like they want to wipe some evidence, from this ethics and governance board or something like that. I can't remember exactly what that pertains to, but the other two things I think are more integral to what they're talking about here. And essentially, I mean, like if this stacks up, if Merchan, looks at this and he's, thinking what the Supreme Court just held, and I want to caveat it with something you said earlier, is that Merchan, might ignore it because, you were saying that, he's a state judge and, perhaps he could, just sort of say, well, I think that, what the Supreme Court held, I'm just not really going to, listen to it, say. But I will say one thing is that Merchan did caveat his sentencing, postponement, saying, we'll have the sentencing at this later date if it's still necessary, or like something to that effect. Basically saying we'll move the date if it's still necessary. And I think that was really important that he said that, because basically, I think he's, basically acknowledging that I'm going to have to take a look at these motions from the Trump team and decide if, we have to completely overturn this jury verdict. And then that raises the question of whether, Trump ever actually was convicted of 34 felonies. All these coffee mugs out there, that say like 34 felony, president, they might, want to run a fire sale, on some of these merchandise items that were just, printed and made by all these grifting companies, because they may not. I mean, I think that obviously people will still want to, commemorate it. Mm-hmm. But, it gets back down to what we were talking about with the twice impeached thing. Twice impeached, but also twice acquitted, never convicted. And people oftentimes really like to, compare, apples and oranges when it comes to these big differences. Slight, people see them as, slight differences, but they're pretty big, over the language of, being found guilty versus actually, following through with like the conviction process of it, which the Senate dealt with that with an acquittal, and potentially the judge could do this here with the conviction. He could overturn what the jury did, and I don't think that we'll have a second trial. That's my takeaway.
Compress that into 2 sentences.
I'm saying now that the the immunity decision could make it to where the judge overturns the jury's decision, and there's not going to be a second trial because of that, because there's just not enough time. And maybe
what does this mean for Trump now? If you're a MAGA fan, if you want to vote MAGA, what does this mean?
I think it means that, if you were angry about the decision and you were one of these people that were like, I'm going to vote for a convicted felon, like you were kind of saying it pridefully, right. Then you may not really have to say that anymore. You may not have to, say like, I'm voting for a convicted felon in November, no matter what. I mean, you might get the benefit of saying like, hey, I'm voting for, obviously everyone saying that was, tongue in cheek, saying I'm voting for an innocent man. But, no longer, are we going to, necessarily see the sting of, people having to say like, yeah, I disagree with the conviction, but I'm still voting for him no matter what. They can start to say, yeah, I'm voting for someone who was acquitted, and never actually was, never actually cemented those felony charges down, because the sentencing is what cements those charges essentially.
Let's play a little bit more and react to what they're saying, because I think the lady actually delves into the weeds, but it's still interesting.
Oh yeah, I've talked to her before.
Okay. And just very briefly before turning back to you, Karen, I just want to address that question that I'm being asked over and over again. The charges have nothing to do with this presidency. So what are we even talking about? How can he claim immunity for acts that he did while he wasn't president? Yes, sure, the hush money payments, the interaction with Stormy Daniels, yes, all that took place before he was in office. But remember what the Supreme Court said in its absolute immunity ruling. They went beyond what Donald Trump was even asking. They found that a president gets absolute immunity for core presidential power. They get absolute immunity from official conduct while they were in office, and there should be a broad presumption that everything they do while in office gets absolute immunity. They don't get immunity for unofficial conduct or conduct that they engaged in before they were in office, which would seem to be the fact pattern here with the Manhattan District Attorney criminal case. However, and this is directly from the dissent right here from Justice Sotomayor, finally, the majority declares that evidence concerning acts for which the president is immune can play no role in a criminal prosecution against him. That holding, which will prevent the government from using a president's official acts to prove knowledge or intent in prosecuting private offenses, is nonsensical. In other words, if the conduct is viewed as official in nature, it is excluded from proceedings. So in the Manhattan District Attorney criminal trial, there was evidence of things Donald Trump did while he was in office. He did sign the checks while he was in office. He had an event at the White House while he was in office where David Pecker and Michael Cohen were at the White House. It was like a celebration event that they were holding for basically covering all of this up. We got testimony from Hope Hicks about Donald Trump's, pattern and practices and statements that he made to her while he was in the office. We heard from Donald Trump's assistant about him getting mail in the office, and how he got mail versus how he, directed these payments not to go. So the issue, and Karen, correct me if I'm wrong, that I think that they're making, that Trump's lawyers are making, is all of that should not even been permitted to be introduced at trial as a way to show Donald Trump's intent. Not that that conduct predates Donald Trump's time in office, but that shouldn't have been allowed in evidence. So that's the issue. I've been blabbering. Karen, break it down for us.
Yeah, so there's something in New York criminal procedure law called a 330.30 motion, which is a post-verdict pre-sentence motion. It's that window of time when there's been a verdict, a jury's reached a verdict, but before the sentencing date, that you can make any post-trial motions that you want. It's very common to do so. The deadline for Donald Trump to file any 330.30 motion has long passed. I think it was June 13th that Judge Merchan said he had to file this motion.
This is what irritates me when I listen to these arguments, because the whole reason we're here having this trial, this hush money trial, is they extended a it's not a deadline, it's a I forget the legal term for it. Basically a deadline for a crime to have, you mean that you can actually punish a crime.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. I know what you're referring to. Well, what I wanted to say about what
The aspect of the crime they're charging him for has already passed its time of being able to be charged.
like the statute of limitations.
Statute of limitations already.
Yeah.
So they've already done. They've already gone past that to even charge him.
Well, can I mean, I just want to say what she's saying, and Karen is very smart, but they bring people on these shows like Karen to basically boggle people's minds with all these, like entrenched, New York, criminal law procedures to like make people to give like basically a dose of copium for the people who want to see this like still, carry on forward. And I just want to cut through that for a second because I'm sure what she's saying here is entirely right. But if this is now a novel Supreme Court rule that just came down and it changes some things about what we understand about presidential immunity, then at the same time, I think it's important that, what she's saying here also, she needs to, say like, take this with a huge grain of salt because what we're seeing here is kind of unprecedented territory. And if there was a mistake that was made in the trial process about evidence that was admitted, then that's something that needs to be looked at. And the fact that Mershon set the sentencing now out all the way to basically the height of the election season means one or two things is going to happen. It means that he's actually going to apply the law as it should be now, or it means that he's going to show that he took at least a considerable amount of time to consider the new law and say, despite this, Trump, the conviction or the verdict still stands, and we're going to sentence you now. The conviction's going to hold, and perhaps they wanted the sting of whatever punishment goes forward to really hit in the height of the election cycle. Like, imagine if Trump in September has to serve the remainder of his time campaigning behind bars or like on house arrest. It would hit much different if they did it now, because it would seem like they're trying to really like, at least at this point, it seems like they're being charitable by saying like, oh, you have this many more months to campaign, Trump, but watch out for September because that might be the time when you can't travel the country.
This is going to be the thing that can be an obstacle because Florida's not going to be, Georgia's not going to be the way it stands now. The way things are, the pace at which things are moving, maybe. Oh, Kalen, can we hit pause?
Yeah.
We'll call him after.
Okay, so yeah, basically what I was saying is like, this is giving us this, brevity now to, continue the campaign, but the October or September surprise could be like, hey, we're gonna stop you from being able to campaign in the height of the election. And so that's basically where we're at now. Like, we may no longer be able to campaign in the height of the election, and then what's going to happen at that point, is anyone's guess, in my opinion.
So I guess my question, Kalen, is how do you see this affecting Trump's popularity?
I think it's only going to keep rising.
They don't address that here. I'm just curious what you think.
I think it's only going to keep rising because every single thing thus far, I was, at first I was willing to give it at least until the jury verdict to see, like the polls in the weeks after, whether it negatively impacted Trump. We know that the indictments helped Trump with his base, and everyone had this big question mark about what it was going to do with the rest of the country when it came down to the general election. So far, it has backfired. So my hunch was that it was always going to backfire. And now, everything that I believed is becoming more and more vindicated. I wanted to be one of these people that really became like, obsessed with like, this is so disastrous for Trump. Like I was, trying to force myself into that bracket because it seems natural that, this happening to anybody in the world or in the country, it would be disastrous for them. But I can't lie to myself. I can't lie to the people that I talk to about these things when I say, look, guys, at the very end of this, I hope that we can restore some faith into our justice system and let this be a lesson going forward for the next 100 years that we can't do this to candidates. We can't prosecute the sons and daughters of current sitting presidents. I think Trump should pardon Hunter Biden because I think what
you're talking about. I mean, I didn't know who you're talking about, but now I do. Biden.
Yeah. I mean, I think I was trying to let people guess where I was getting at, but then I basically am all I'm saying is think about how much how it's like when somebody when someone's just like being like a D-bag, and then your response to them is just like to like completely like reversal and just like be like to be like completely like kind or something like that, and like throws them off. Right. Like imagine how much that would just like make Biden rage on the inside to see Trump be so powerful and to be like, I could just pluck you off the face of the earth right now, but I'm going to pardon your effing son. That almost brings me to tears to think about that.
This could only happen with the talent and leadership that Trump has provided. Mm-hmm. It's not going to work with anybody else. Ron DeSantis, no, you couldn't do that. So this is a one-off. This is a one-off. I think outside of what you're saying with Trump, these people are going to have to get a dose of their own medicine at some point. I also think Trump's the person to do that as well. But he's got a dual-edged sword I think he could wield, and it's just going to be up to maybe the winds of chance.
Yeah. I don't know. All I'm saying is like I think it would just be like it would show people who is on the right side of history to not use the sword back against them and continue this cycle. And it would almost be like, how it's like in old samurai films, like whenever there's like a big fight, mm-hmm. and then the person who loses like feels like the honorable thing to have happen mm-hmm. is for the victor to like slay them, but then like instead they like cast their sword to the side and they're like, you're not even worthy of my like final blow.
I'm gonna disagree. I think this is more like Jaws.
It's like more like Jaws.
The shark is going to attack you, whether you're in a big boat, small boat, whether it's hungry or not. It's going to try and kill you and eat you. And the only thing that will stop it is when you shoot it and blow its mouth off. And that's it. You can't be like, no, I will not kill this shark. I am better than this shark. No, you kill the thing that's trying to destroy you before it destroys you.
I just think it would be a lot more. It'd be a lot funnier to like Gitmo some of these people, like waterboard them like in front of like in like congressional hearings and stuff like that. Like basically like metaphorically, and just like really humiliate them, but don't like actually do the same thing that you did to Bannon and like Navarro, because at the end of the day, you're showing like you have at least a little bit more self-respect than to just like turn the sort of the law on them the same way that they did to you.
I will say one more time and then I'll stop. I think sometimes having self-respect is showing that you can stick up for yourself.
But it's okay. We can agree to disagree on this, but yeah. I'm just saying that what I'm describing right now would make people tremble because the absolute amount of power that they have, again, to just like, be like, boink, you're gone.
I'm not seeing these memes. I'm not seeing them.
I'm just saying it would be very cool to see that, because it's like basically
here's the meme for that. It's the Lady of Justice that's blinded with the scales. That's the meme for what you're talking about. Mm-hmm. I guess. But she's also got a sword in the other hand.
Well, the reason okay. Let me push back over here. Let me push back on this one more time. All right. Okay. Because the Democrats are actively goading the right into being into having retribution. Mm-hmm. They want them to like Democrats want nothing more than for the right to act on this whole like retribution like art campaign, because it falls directly in line with like this whole like scare tactic over like Project 2025 and stuff like that. They're like, oh, Project 2025, Trump's going to ban protesting, like all this stuff. He's going to bring in the National Guard, and it's going to be, freaking.
Do you really think that's what they want? Nothing more than that, or do you think they want nothing more than to win the election, pack the courts, yada yada yada?
They want that. They want that too, but they want nothing more than to try to be able to point the finger back at the Republicans and say, look, after Trump was, after we think he was rightfully convicted of every single thing that happened in these like 4 different indictments, look what he did. He went and he exacted revenge. That's everything that we've been telling you about this guy for the last 8 years, is that he's going to be this dictator or something like that. But how powerful would it be for these people who are now saying that Trump is going to be like a king, with this?
I'll give you one more. I'll give you a history lesson. Mm-hmm. We've seen that movie you're describing, and that's called Trump's first term, when he didn't lock up Hillary.
I know, but that's what I'm saying.
Win us anything, Kalen.
It's like it's like whenever Jesus was like in the desert being tempted by Satan. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? And so what you're describing is you're advocating for Jesus to succumb to temptations from Satan.
No, because nobody is Jesus but Jesus.
I'm saying though, but Trump is not Christ, but he's like Daniel in the lion's den. I'm not gonna compare him to Christ, but there's a number of biblical figures that you can compare his.
I would say you're right on that. I can see that. That's a good comparison, because he has so far not been devoured by the forces that could somehow.
Yeah. So again, I might be, I'm saying that all this now because after the Dr. Phil interview with Trump, what Dr. Phil was trying to do was he was trying to box Trump in on this exact issue.
Yeah, he did.
And he forced Trump to sit down and think about it. And I think after that interview, maybe beforehand, Trump decided on his own. But I think that after that interview, he got a little bit of a Dune, vision into the future about like what about what could happen if he went and like fulfilled the prophecy. And obviously it's like the story of Paul Atreides is actually a tragedy because he eventually exiles himself,
well,
and
the Emperor God destroys a lot of people.
Yeah, exactly. But after that, he like exiles himself and stuff like that. So it's like, I don't think that Trump should, drink the blue juice on this, because I think that what's going to happen is it's just going to fulfill it's going to be a self-fulfilling prophecy for the left. They're finally going to be able to point and say like, look, dictator. And I think it's absolutely a trap. It's absolutely a trap.
Okay. I'll take it one more different direction than what we've actually gone. So people like Harry Sisson.
Right.
Okay. I watched his coming out video today from 4 years ago, where he said that Gen Z is voting green. They're going to try and kill the MAGA movement with environmental movements, things like that. So you can be the nice guy all you want, but they're going to still say, okay, you didn't lock up so-and-so, but you still want to murder babies. You still want to kill the environment. You still are a racist. None of that's going to stop. So I don't know.
And none of that would stop if he, exacted political retribution. But I don't think that this.
Oh, would they'd be in jail?
I don't think, but yeah, but then you're just gonna breed resentment. You're gonna get like the Antifa Black Bloc to like mobilize, and then you're gonna have
I'm in jail.
Yeah, I mean, okay.
I'm just messing with you now, okay?
I think what this is.
I'm just an artist. What do I know?
Yeah, but I mean, like I've been having conversations, with people about this.
Okay.
And I know that this is like this like major like temptation route that is happening right now. And I think what Steve Bannon has said on this,
Who's in jail
he was in jail, he was just put in jail.
wrongly.
Steve Bannon has all of the correct takes on this because he is still capable of making the heads on pikes metaphors, you know, and he doesn't he doesn't regret that, and he emphasizes that it was a metaphor. But he does not think that this, you know, precludes Congress from bringing in, you know, all these, you know, like James Comey, Bill Barr, all these like former officials and stuff like this, and putting their feet under the fire. And perhaps if they deny a subpoena or something like that, then we throw them in jail for 4 months or however long it's taken. You know what I mean? There's nothing wrong with that because that is eye for eye, tit for tat. But if it's like we're going to go beyond that point, then the Republicans set a new precedent. And then
I was just basically kind of restating Bannon's position. I think that's that's where I thought I was coming at it from.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's like, yeah, if they don't comply with a congressional subpoena, then yeah, hold that same standard, you know, above them.
So the attorney general, you know,
but I would very much caution going much further than that, because going much further than that is exactly, you know, in the case of Satan and Jesus in the desert, it's what Satan wants to tempt Jesus to do, which he ultimately rejects and comes out stronger for it. So I'm just saying, be careful not to make sure it is eye for eye and not like, you know, eye for limb or something like that, you know?
Okay.
That's just my takeaway. But, you know, and other news, no, I mean, I think that, you know, going back to what we were talking about a little bit on the immunity business in New York, I just wanted to, you know, send people away from this video, like thinking a little bit about what this means also for the jury getting this bumped up to a felony. Because we were talking about how, you know, this platter of options that the jury had to choose from to come up with this predicate crime in order to bump up a expired misdemeanor into a active felony. What you're looking at right now is, you know, basically the initial crime, which is 175, 10, which is, this is the falsification of business records, which is what they have to initially agree upon, that there was a falsification. And then there's these one of three options. There's FACA 1715, and there's FACA, and then there's 17-152, and then there's tax fraud. I think, and I'm not a lawyer, but I would say, given what we've seen with immunity right now, I think that we can definitely say that the jury should not have been presented with the Federal Election Campaign Act as an option for what, and once again, they did not all have to agree what they believed was the predicate offense. They just had to agree that there was one.
Do we know that if any chose that?
We don't. I don't think we do. I was not made aware.
I'm sure there's a record of it, though.
I think that was kept private because I think that all they had to basically, in order, like basically like the charging documents, it's like it just said like guilty or not guilty for each one, and so each one was like a 175.110, but
I'm just wondering out loud here how the immunity decision weighs into the federal election thing, because that's going to be Trump's argument, correct?
Well, I think that they would definitely say this is really important, I think, for just, you know, in like the minutia of each, you know, component that like immunity might impact throughout all this is, you know, take all of the things I said earlier about witness testimony and, you know, tweets and stuff like that. Like, let's just say the judge is like, okay, I disagree with you there on some of those things. We're going to keep some of those things as evidence because whatever. He's a corrupt judge. I don't see how you look at the immunity decision and look at the FACA violation here, because all of the reimbursements were made while Trump they were made while Trump was president.
From the Oval Office.
From the Oval Office.
Right.
So I would say, how can they do that? Because FACA is essentially federal crime, and I think it would take a lot to prove that, this is something that can stand in a state trial. Maybe I'm wrong, but I just think that they might need to slash FACA. And if they have to slash FACA, then one might argue, well, okay, they could have decided, violation of New York state election law or tax fraud. But still, it's like, if FACA was an option for the jury to, land upon, then I don't know how you don't get a reversal.
Well, can that be remedied in verdict? I mean, not verdict, sentencing. Couldn't he just sentence according to maybe that being incorrectly applied?
See, that's what I just don't know yet. I mean, I would think that if the jury had the option to choose FACA or consider FACA, and suddenly that's no longer an option for them, then I think that
Rashawn just says, you're free to go. This was all terrible. We, as a country, we shouldn't have to go through this. Trump, you're going to be on your own recognizance. Good luck on the election.
I hope so, but I don't know, because I think that would put aside a lot of bad blood that has been created over him, and I think that in some ways people would still not be able to forgive him for not dismissing this case outright. But I think that would be like a wow moment for a lot of people.
It would be like the Biden debate. It'd be like, what just happened? Really?
Yeah. Like, we really put all that energy and time and to covering this thing and making it so serious and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, crazy, right? It would be so bizarre. So I don't know, but I kind of want to end on a light note. We started this talking about Harry, and I kind of want to bring up, what was this Don Jr. thing that you said he was responding to Don?
No, I thought you said that. Did I?
Oh, maybe I did say. I mean, I have the video booted up, but I haven't watched it.
I don't think I've seen it.
Let's see what he said, and then we can kind of end on a lighter note. Because this kid is just something else. And I really wonder what his salary is. We gotta look that up next time.
So Donald Trump Jr., Trump's son, decided to come after me on his show yesterday. Seriously, take a look.
After they leave office. That's exactly what they're trying to do. And how did Team Biden respond to this decision? They literally called for the assassination of my father and Supreme Court justices. Someone named Harry Sisson, a Biden influencer, I guess. I think he's like some paid little troll or whatever, tweeted, according to the Supreme Court, Biden could now send SEAL Team 6 to take them all out. He could send in the military to take out Trump. He has immunity for official acts now.
Yeah, paid troll. That's the best he could come up with. I was really expecting better, and I thought that he was talking about himself for a little bit there, but I digress. First of all, nobody was calling for Donald Trump to be targeted. Not me, not anybody. We were simply citing the Supreme Court decision.
Plausible deniability.
If you think my tweet or other people's tweets said that, then you have the reading comprehension of a second grader. And second of all, Donald Trump Jr., who looks eerily similar to the characters in Beavis and Butthead, should probably be focusing on the collapsing Trump campaign and the fact that his father is a convicted felon, as opposed to dedicating time to misinterpreting posts on social media.
I'm not going to try to do an actual impression, but oh my god, oh my goodness. I mean, that's what we're up against, folks. That's the ammunition that they're.
That's your generation, Kalen.
Yeah, I know, and I'm so proud.
Good luck.
I mean, in another universe, in another time when maybe Harry wasn't approached by a DNC operative, and wasn't said like, oh, hey, you have a good stage presence. We think you'd be good for this role. I think that, if he was given a higher offer from like if he was given like a higher paid offer from like an RNC like representative, I think that he could have been one of these like MAGA donning, people that just goes out there and stumps for Trump. I think the DNC just won him over.
I don't think he couldn't be cast on South Park because he's not a diverse woman.
He would never make it in a new Star Wars series.
No, not a diverse woman. Sorry, dude.
Yeah, sorry. Kathleen Kennedy doesn't want you.
All right, I guess that's it for tonight.